Hey, I'm Harrison. I'm the founder of the Fractional Incubator, and I'm seeing now that my shirt matches our logo. That was not intentional, but hopefully that's some nice visual consonants for you. And inside the Fractional Incubator, we've helped hundreds of clients acquire millions of dollars worth of fractional engagements over the last 2 years. And in this video, I'm going to talk through some of the most important lessons that I've learned while I've been doing that. And this is stuff that we share with all of our paid students in our program. It's going to help you do the same thing that they're trying to do, which is go out to the market and engage with businesses fractionally using the skills that you've built throughout your career. So I'm just going to jump right into it. Okay. What do you need to know to build your fractional practice? From the beginning, lesson number one, don't treat building your practice like some kind of major life-altering decision. This is not changing the future. Don't think of it as this is going to change everything, the future trajectory of your life. You are not stepping into some wild new identity. You are not undergoing some intense transformation when you make this decision to, quote, go fractional. Ideally, you're going to do this on the side of your current W-2 at first for as long as you can, because we've seen time and time again when people assign too much monumental importance to this, when they treat it like they're building a business, for example, and then what they're doing is they're putting way more pressure on themselves and on making the decision in the first place than is actually warranted. Before enough people started asking me how to build one of these types of practices, that I had to go ahead and create, like I had to start charging people for it. I actually had my own fractional practice. I was sales and marketing. And I did that on the side of my old W-2 that I'd worked at for years after grad school. I did both of those things, my practice and my main gig, my W-2, for 16 months before I finally left the W-2 to do fractional full time. And I did it with 202 kids at home at the time, by the way. And that helped me develop a core belief that I hold to this day, which is your fractional practice should not remove options. If it removes options from you, you're thinking about it the wrong way, because it should only add options for you. You are not undergoing some massive career shift. You're just learning a new way to get paid doing what you're already good at. You're not abandoning traditional employment. You're not, quote, starting a business. You're not burning the ships. You're just learning a new way to get work that you can use as much or as little as you want or as you need. Analogy I always use to make this really hit home. Imagine if you're really into lifting weights. You love lifting weights as a way to stay in shape. And then somebody comes up to you and they say, "Hey, I know you love lifting weights. Did you know that there's this other way to stay in shape? It's called swimming. You ever heard of that? It's called swimming. You should try it." Well, if somebody said that to you, you wouldn't then immediately think, "Oh boy, what does this mean? Does this mean I can never lift weights again? Should I start swimming instead of lifting weights? Do I have to quit lifting weights? Do I have to abandon my identity as this gym guy?" No. You would simply say, "Oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, swimming. Yeah, I never thought about that. Another way to stay in shape. That's cool. That's useful. Maybe I'll give it a go. Let me give it a go." And that's the right mindset to take into this. You're giving yourself more options, more ways to stay in shape, more ways to earn using the skills that you already have, not less. More ways for you to get paid as a hedge against the uncertainty of the W-2 world, that you can build as big or as little as you'd like to build it. That's the right way to think about this decision. Lesson number two, the label you call yourself barely matters. Another thing people struggle with is they say, well, like, what am I? Am I fractional? Should I be an advisor? Should I be a consultant? Should I be something else? And I always say, if that's the question you're asking the wrong question. Because the label barely matters. If you ask 10 random corporate people off the street, what's the difference between a fractional and consulting, you would get 9 different answers. There's just no universally agreed upon definition in the first place. And in fact, in most cases, you shouldn't label yourself at all, because all that's doing is reducing options. And remember, we're all about adding options, not reducing them. Because what matters most, more than the label you call yourself, what matters most to securing these types of engagements, these B2B service-based engagements with other businesses, is 2 things and 2 things only. I'm about to tell you what they are. And if you can read my slide, you get a preview. Thing number 1, can you make them more money than they pay you? Period. That has to be true. If you can do that, well, great, you're off to a great start. And thing number 2, can you do it in a way that reduces operational complexity for the business, not add operational complexity to the business? So more net profit, less net complexity. If you can do that, you can always find some kind of deal there. Always. Then you're just negotiating around the terms. But if you can't do that, if you can't offer more net profit with less net complexity, well, then you're playing the game on hard mode for your whole career for no reason. Lesson number 3, you are not selling, and you're certainly not selling offers. The right way to think about it is you're building deals. You're creating deals. You're getting deals done. You're not out here. You're not a salesperson. You're a deal guy or girl, man or woman. Yeah, there you go. So this becomes especially true the more experience that you have and the more measurable results that you've achieved in your career. Now, lower level people, to be fair, if they want to sell like a service-based thing to a service B2B, then if they're really lower level, then they typically are going to need some kind of offer. So it'd be like, I'll book calls for you. I'll build your SOPs. I'll help you integrate this new ERP, whatever it is. I'll run your ads, that kind of stuff. But if you're like the people that I normally work with, you're not low level. So again, building this narrow offer is only going to constrain yourself, which removes options. It doesn't add them. And the correct way to approach your engagements is through an understanding that your deals are going to be totally bespoke, and they'll be built to fit the company's actual problems as you discover them, as you undergo discovery with that company. And here's a real talk track that we use to book business inside the program. You can just take it. You can just keep it. It's yours for forever. But most of these deals get done over 2 meetings. It usually takes 2 meetings, and there's going to be some back and forth afterward that can extend the deal cycle a little bit, but you want to get them pregnant and committed to the deal after 2 meetings. And the way that you do that is this. On meeting number 1, you're going to ask smart diagnostic questions around their numbers and their priorities to uncover where a bottleneck is. And when you hear a bottleneck, especially one that aligns with your expertise, you're going to tuck it away and you're going to run some quick mental math on how much it's costing them. So for example, if you're an ops pro, and you hear they're doing a lot of rework. Well, if you know their cost of labor, their cost of materials, and the frequency of that rework, which you're going to discover on the discovery call, well, then you can figure out really back a napkin how much that's costing that business. And then at the end of the call, you can credibly say, hey, here's your talk track. That thing you mentioned on the rework, based on my experience, that could be costing you guys X amount per month or X amount per year, whatever number you come to. I've dealt with that a ton over my career. Here's what we need to do next. That's a very important line. Here's what we need to do next. You say, I'm going to go ahead and put pen to paper on how I'd actually solve that problem if it were my problem, if I were in your shoes. That'll be yours to keep. It's just my way of saying thank you for the time today. And I'll include a little bit in there about what it would be like for me to just handle it for you, so you don't have to mess with it. Again, very important line. But then you say, but regardless, that's going to be your playbook. It's going to be yours to keep. Give me about 48 hours to put that together. And then you're going to want me to walk you through it also. Very important line. You're going to want me to walk you through it. So let's go ahead and find some time right now in the next couple of days where I can do that, so I can contextualize everything I put down for you. And then right there, as you're talking to this person, you book meeting number 2 right there. You never, ever, ever leave a meeting without booking your next one. Rule number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Never, ever leave without booking your next one. And that's what you do right there on that call or on that meeting. And then on call number 2, well, that's your proposal. That's your proposal meeting. And that's where you set and anchor the first set of terms for the deal, which gets us into our next point, which is start with terms, not with a huge contract. So let's do another thought exercise here. Think about how PE buys companies. What do they do first? Usually one of the first things that, like the first real things they do, is they're typically going to send over like an LOI term sheet type thing where they're going to outline the high level aspects of the deal. And it's going to have some numbers on it. It's going to have some assumptions on it. And all of those points, in theory, most of the time are totally negotiable. But what that term sheet is doing is really 4 important things, 4 extremely important things. I'm going to tell you what they are right now. First, that term sheet, LOI, whatever you want to call it, is anchoring the seller on the big important terms of the deal. So if the seller thinks they're going to get a 10x EBITDA multiple for their company, the buyer knows it's a 5 or 6x deal. Well, they're going to anchor that seller right there. They're going to anchor that expectation downward right out of the gate. The second thing these term sheets are doing is it's going to get the seller pregnant with the idea of the deal in the first place. Because you're painting this picture of this dream outcome that they want, which is going to do a lot of the selling, a lot of the deal making for you. It's going to be like, it's the reason they pump popcorn smell through the movie theaters. When you walk in, it's like, oh man, I'm like incepted with the idea of this deal. You're doing the same thing here. I want to get popcorn now. Third thing it's doing, it's reducing what we call complexity-based friction from the deal cycle. It's reducing complexity-based friction. So you get them excited about the outcome of the deal. Then you go into all the requisite but boring, tedious stuff like due diligence and contracting that's required, but nobody wants to think about that yet. Nobody wants to mess with it. So you don't do it in reverse. If you started with the boring and the tedious stuff, the other party would never get excited enough about the deal in the first place to go through with all that stuff. And so you'd miss out on a ton of cash, on a ton of deals. Finally, the fourth thing you're doing with these term sheets, the Ps are doing with these term sheets, is they're introducing negotiation levers that they're going to use later. And that's what your terms are. You want to control the negotiation. So you introduce several levers that any one of which you'd be willing to give on a little bit at the expense of one or more of the others. And you're going to trade on the terms that you introduced rather than being forced to concede those terms independently later on as a surprise. All right. So that's setting the stage. That's how, imagine how PE approaches their deals. Gets us to our next point. You as a fractional, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to do it the exact same way. So remember on call one, meeting one, your discovery portion of the deal cycle, where you said, hey, I'm going to put pen to paper. Well, this is the paper that you create. And we have tons of best practices and frameworks for how to create these documents. But the most important thing for you right now is to imagine that you got to fit everything on 1-2 pages max, because you do have to fit it on 1-2 pages max. And then what you're going to do is you're going to divide that 1-2 pages max in half. So think about it. You've got above the fold and below the fold. And above the fold, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to just write out all of the work that needs to be done. And we'll go into more on that in a second, but for now, suffice to say, you want to bias toward making this sound complicated while still fitting within our space constraints. So this is where you make good on your promise from the first conversation, the first meeting, where you say, hey, here's how I would fix the problem if it were my problem. That's what this portion of the document is, above the fold. So then you're going to walk them through that, and then you're going to go below the fold. And that is where you show them your terms. This is where you make good on your promise of, hey, I'm going to show you what it would be like for me to just do it for you so you don't have to mess with it. That's what this section is below the fold. And these are where you include your terms, which can be anything, but typically what we're going to include most of the time is we're going to include your retained rate, we're going to include your availability, your communication cadence, your communication preferences, the access that you need to their numbers and their business and their books. We're going to include any performance-based incentives that go into your compensation. And in certain cases, narrow cases, we're going to include any equity-based compensation that you're going to receive, points in the business that you can earn based on your success working with them. So you see what we've done here. We followed this proven playbook that the deal makers and PE gave us. Very similar playbook. So we're getting them we're getting the business owner that you're talking to emotionally invested in the outcome that they wanted. We're going to show them how to solve that expensive problem that they have that you've already tied a dollar amount to because you're smart and you know how to do that. And then you're laying out the terms of you just handling it for them so they don't have to mess with it. And once you've done that, you have what we call inside the program, inside the incubator, you have what we call a live deal. And that's where the fun starts. That's my favorite part, is going and getting that deal done, getting it across the finish line. All right, so the next lesson number 6. We touched on this briefly before, but it's so important that I'm going to talk about it more. Nothing matters more than this when it comes to getting these types of deals done. And you communicate this when you're delivering your proposal. But you must structure every deal, every proposal term sheet, every deal so that it does 2 things for the buyer. Number 1, it's going to show them a clear and credible path to ROI. So they pay you $1, they make $1 times X. That has to be there. You got to do the work. We help you do it. But if you're on your own, you got to do that work. Number 2, it must show them credibly how it's going to reduce complexity, working with you is going to reduce complexity for the person signing the check. It makes their life net easier. It reduces the net time they have to spend in and on the business. It's okay to an extent if you add time for their staff, if you make their staff life a little bit more complex to a limit. But if you make the life of the person signing the check harder, that's going to drastically reduce your odds of getting a deal done. So remember a minute ago, when I talked about in your proposal to bias in making the solution to their problem sound complicated. Now, obviously, you do not, obviously, I hope, obviously, you don't lie or exaggerate, but you do make sure that you adequately communicate just how much work goes into solving their mess. Don't sugarcoat it. Lean into it, because then you get to say these magic words to the buyer, to the prospect. You get to say, so that's how you solve your problem. You can go do it by yourself. Be my guest. Here's all the stuff you got to go figure out, all the extra work you got to do. Or you can just let me do it. And here's how that's actually profitable for you still, while giving you less to do on the daily basis, not more. ROI positive, net complexity negative. Extremely important. Lesson number 7. W-2s themselves are negotiable. People rarely think about it like this. We have a ton of success doing it this way. So we have a go-to-market strategy that we teach. It's called W-2 interception. That's the name of it. Creative name. IP. There you go. Which, to be fair, the W-2 interception strategy, it relies on you saying the exact right things to companies in the right way and at the right time. But I'm going to give you the high-level framework for it right now. And so that you understand how this creates a ton of fractional style engagements for people like you. So another story time, another thought exercise. Imagine I am a business owner. Let's say I have a $5 million B2B services type company. And I finally decide one day, I make this decision. I say, it's time for me to grow up. My revenue's high enough now. I'm going to hire my first real executive. Maybe I have a COO, but like my first non-operator executive, I'm going to hire a CFO. The finance function's a disaster. I need the help. I'm grown up now. Let's mature as a company. I'm taking this big leap. I'm hiring a CFO. So what's the first thing that I probably do when I've made that decision as a business owner? I probably hire a recruiter, and then we probably post the job to all the job boards and we introduce it to our networks. And me, in this example, let's pretend I'm based in a small-ish market, in the relatively small market in the U.S. Let's say I'm based in like a St. Paul, Minnesota type place. And the market rate for this type of role at a company my size in St. Paul, Minnesota, well, I don't know what it is. We'll call it $275,000 a year salary, plus some performance stuff in there, maybe. All right. So I'm posting this job. I've made this big decision. I've got butterflies in my stomach as the founder. This is how it feels. Trust me, I know. This is how it feels. This is a big investment in my business. Here we go. Probably the biggest headcount investment I've ever made. I post the job and I wait. And all of a sudden, something starts happening that makes these butterflies in my stomach turn into knots in my stomach, because I start getting my candidates in my local market in St. Paul, Minnesota, and none of them are what I was expecting. None of them are what I wanted. They're too junior, they're too inexperienced, and I don't think any of them are worth this $275,000 investment. And then I start doing the math on what that $275,000 investment actually means, and the knots in my stomach get even worse. The ropes that they're tied out of get bigger, because I'm not just paying $275,000. I'm paying whatever it is, 20-30% to that recruiter. So there's another 60 plus grand. Plus, I'm paying all of the benefits and taxes that go along with a W-2. And all of a sudden, that $275,000 hire, I realize is actually going to cost me well over $400,000 in year one. And definitely nobody I'm talking to is worth that. Nobody coming through my application pipeline is worth that. So all of a sudden, I'm sweating. I'm feeling real bad. And then you, dear viewer, you come along. You come to me and you make all of the knots in my stomach disappear. You make me feel this wave of relief that I've been looking for, because you're not junior, you're not inexperienced, and you're proposing to do my CFO job that I want, that I need, under my budget. My head explodes. So you set up your terms, and I realize that I can get you an actual expert for $15,000, $20,000 a month to month. as opposed to the 30 plus I'd be paying all in for a full-time. And I'd be locked in with that full-time, really, thanks to sunk cost fallacy, for at least 3 months, usually 6, even if I knew early on they weren't working out. So I'm measuring that versus the 15, 20 that you can do it for. And all it is you're going to be a non-exclusive contractor, not a W-2. And I can quit anytime I want. 20,000 versus 30, 40. And I get a more experienced person instead of as an independent, non-exclusive contractor, instead of a less experienced person as a W-2 for whatever it is, the 400,000 plus all in. That sounds incredible to me as a business owner. I am listening as a business owner. And you get these deals all because you took our philosophy into a W-2 type negotiation. All right, lesson number 7. Lesson number 8. We got 8 and 9 on the same page. Here we go. I'm going to get it. Yeah, that's good. All right, lesson number 8. First thing, will this work for my function? I hear that all the time. If you're asking, will this work for my background, my function, my area of expertise? If that's the question you're asking again the wrong question. So people ask me this all the time. Will this work for me? They say, I'm in HR, I'm in customer success, I'm a CRO, whatever. Will this work for me? Can I be a fractional person on the side, or can I have a fractional practice? Because this is my background and it's different. And when I hear that question, I always say, wrong question. Wrong question. The question you should be asking is this: can I make a business more money than they pay me? And can I do it in a way that reduces net complexity in their operations? If yes, this can work for you. If no, it won't. That's it. So you need to be really honest about that when it comes to your skills and your background, but you also need to make sure that you're asking the right question in the first place. We have done this with every function under the sun. We have a guy selling farm equipment fractionally right now. Seriously. And why can he do that? Because he makes more money than they pay him, and he makes the owner's job easier. Period. That's what matters, not your special, unique skill set. And lesson number 9 on the same page here, the better you are, the easier this is. So to expand on an idea that I introduced earlier, let's think of another analogy. So I know a ton of how we land deals, or you should know, a ton of how we land deals depends on really smart outreach at volume. So you need to have that going for you if you want a healthy pipeline of prospects, of a deal flow. And don't worry, it can be mostly automated these days, and it can run in the background of your daily life, but you need to have it in place, and we put that in place for you inside the incubator. So let's say again, I'm a business owner, and I get inbound messages on LinkedIn or email every single day, which is true. That's what happens. There's really only 2 things that influence if I'm going to respond to those messages or not. Really boil it down, make it as high level as you can. There are only 2 things that influence response rate to those messages. Thing number 1 is the content of the message itself. And thing number 2 is the authority of the person sending that message. And here's a hint. Those 2 things are not created equally. And I'll prove it to you. So let's say I get 2 messages on the same day. Message number 1, the first message I get has the best copy, the best words of all time. It's perfectly worded. It speaks directly to my pains. That's great. That's awesome. Hey, what a great message. Bravo to you, whoever wrote that message and sent that to me. What's the first thing I'm going to do? The first thing I'm always going to do, the first thing anyone does when they get a message and they try to decide if they're going to respond or not, they go look at who sent it. Think about it. You've done it. You do it every single time. Somebody sends you a message, you don't know who it is, you go, look, who is this person? That's what everyone does. Everyone does. That's what they use to decide if they're going to engage. They go look at who sent the message in the first place. So to make the example really easy, let's say that I got this message 1 on LinkedIn. The first thing I always do, always is, and this, again, like this applies to everyone in the world. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go look at the profile. If they send it to me on LinkedIn, I'm going to go look at the LinkedIn profile of the person who sent the message. I might not even read it yet. I might go look at him before I even read the message, which just shows, again, how important this is. So I go look at it, and to my disappointment, the person who sent the message is some 26-year-old straight out of business school with zero track record, zero proof of competence. They might not even have a profile picture on their LinkedIn page, or if they do, it's the generic headshot that they got on day one of their MBA program. And my excitement to their message goes to near zero. And their response rate, in turn, is near zero, no matter how good the message itself is. Now, let's say I get message number 2, same day. And message number 2 has zero thought in the copy. I mean, it's literally, it can just literally be the word, hey, what's up? It could be SUP with a question mark at the end. It could be the message. And then what do I do? Like everyone who gets a message, I'm like, who sent me this? Like, who went and sent this message? And I go look and I see that it was sent from the ID verified, legitimate profile of Mr. Warren Buffett himself. That's who sent me sup. Well, what's the response rate on that message? It's 100%. I guarantee it. All because of how good people perceive Warren Buffett to be. It doesn't matter what the message is. His authority trumps it 1,000 times over. And that gets us to the dirty secret of fractional deals, fractional practices in the first place, which is the better you are, the easier it is. All the time. All the time. That's what we're looking for more than anything else. It's just how freaking good are you? How good are you? And most people don't have the authority of Warren Buffett, but like anything else, authority exists on a spectrum. And the closer you are to the Warren Buffett end of the spectrum, the more authority you have, the more results that you can point to, the more money you can make a business, then the more likely your messages get responded to in the first place, regardless of what they say, which means the more deals that you get your hands on and the more income you can generate. Dirty secret, but how good are you? And we make sure that you have to present that the right way too. But if you can and you are, deal flow's easy. All right, last lesson. Don't solve scale problems at the beginning of your fractional practice. I'm going to stop after this one, but don't solve scale problems first. So many of you, so many people that I talk to spend months working on their quote offer, which we already talked about, you don't even need at the beginning, or at least you build it on the back of what your offer is, your proposal, and it's on the back of the discovery, not preemptive. They spend months building their website, they spend months building their content strategy or their business plan before they ever actually go and have conversations with their market. And invariably, when I ask them, why are they doing that? Why are you wasting all this time? They'll say, well, I need to build this for scale. I need to be ready to operate this thing when I'm at $1 million a year or more, whatever it is, whatever goal I think I have. I need to build for scale because I listen to Masters of Scale podcasts, and that's what they've told me, which is the complete wrong way to think about this. Remember, I said at the very beginning of this video, I said, don't make this into something bigger than it needs to be. All you need to do, steps 1 through 10, is just go get one client. Go get one engagement. That's it. That's all you need, one deal. And then you grow from there. Building for scale, when I hear people say that they're trying to do that, I always imagine if like I decide that I wanted to get better at basketball. Instead of I wanted to learn this new skill of fractional deal making, fractional engagements, the skill I wanted to learn is basketball. And so what do? Well, I spend weeks planning out how I'm going to negotiate my first MBA contract, who am I going to hire as an agent, what kind of terms am I going to get on my Nike deal. When none of that stuff is going to help me accomplish my goal of just getting better at basketball. And what I should be doing instead of worrying about my Nike deal that may or may not ever exist is I should just be out in the driveway working on my jump shot. That's what I should be doing. And that's what I hear when I hear people say they're trying to build out this scaled version of their practice way too early. Just get one. Go get one. You can do that in a few weeks or less. Solve the problems that exist in front of you, not the ones that exist in some vague future that will look completely different if and when that future ever even arrives. All right? So that's it. There we go. Your 10-point playbook. Take a screenshot of this. And that's it. Thanks for writing. Subscribe or watching. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to talk to me or one of my colleagues about our go-to-market program for fractional executives, the Fractional Incubator, click that link down below this video. Send me a message on LinkedIn. It'll come already populated with I came from YouTube, and we'll take the conversation from there. Do that. Appreciate it. I'll see you next time.